happy to welcome today our special speaker from a company called mGenius, and we'll tell you about what mGenius is, I'm sure. This is Gabriel Camargo, and what's your title? I have introduction, so sorry about that. And so without any further ado,
all right.
Well, thanks for joining us today, and thank you everyone who's here to listen to this speech. Gabriel Camargo is the CEO and founder of mGenius, which is an international technology development company with emphasis on using behavioral design principles and techniques in software development. He has over 15 years of leadership in the technology field, including projects throughout the US, Europe, and Latin America. Please welcome Gabriel.
Thank you. All right. Can I take this slide off? All right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you for joining. My name is Gabriel, and I'm going to be talking today about a little bit on product design. And this is way over the actual execution of a technology project. I'm the CEO of mGenius, which is a technology company. We are a company that specializes on designing products. We work with physical, digital products. Digital means apps, platforms, digital platforms and stuff. But we also work with physical stuff, like things you can touch and manipulate. But about 70% of our products are digital. mGenius is a company that's been specializing on designing products for about 10 years. And the special sauce we have is that we specialize in something called behavioral design, which is how you design those products to make people to use them in the way you expect, and also to behave in the way you want them to behave for the results of that product. It's a fairly small company, a little bit over 50 people, distributed in 5 countries, Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Chile, and the US. And over 90% of our clients are US based, and we have a lot of products around the world, but mostly for US based companies and Europeans. All right. I'm going to touch 2 things today. First, I'm going to be doing some highlights, basics on product design, and trying to explain the value of it, even if it is for products that are on a trial stage. We have a fairly decent experience on trial products, and when I talk about product, it could be actually an app that can keep track or wherever you are asking your users or your subjects to do. So that would be a product, right? A product could be also the entire thing or the entire experience that the subjects are going through. So product is a fairly broad term in this case. And the second thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work or go through some tips about how to interact with a company that actually can bring these other parts for trials and tests with people, like digital apps. Because it's very hard. It might seem very simple and basic, but and actually the core, most likely the core of a trial has anything to do with the digital piece that you're launching together with it. even if it is to keep track of it or to enhance it or do whatever you like or you need a digital platform for. But the thing is that the overall experience of this test, trial, or product is going to be very linked to these interactions with the digital space. And failing is easy, way more easier than actually making it right. So I'm going to do I'm going to give some tips about how to survive that. So I'm going to, the first part of the presentation, I'm going to try to move fast. Design is everywhere. And even when we don't have design, what we do have is bad design. So if we don't put our consciousness on actually creating something in the right way in the terms of design, we pretty much are providing a very bad design to it. The second very, very common thing is, why should I care, right? When we work with people from the scientific community, they typically rely on what we call basic science, right? Or foundational science. So they say, well, you know what? My product is going to change the science behind this disease or whatever it is, right? And they say, it's going to be great. Doesn't matter. I don't really need to do something spectacular in the technology side, on the companion app, or in the tracking platform, or wherever, because what we are doing is so awesome that it's going to rock it anyway. And well, we've seen so many times that actually great innovations in the science, actually, or even in the startup world, if you want, great ideas in that end, failing because they have poorly designed the whole experience around it. Even when the core of the thing is very viable and very, very good, they have hard times trying to get over. So actually, it's an important part. If you have proper design on the product concept around it, make things super easier for people, and actually helps in not distorting the results. Let's assume you have a trial when you are asking people to do something and to track it, for example, which is a very, very basic and a case that repeats 7 out of 10 times. Well, you know what? If the tracking experience it's terrible, and if it is not easy enough, and if it is not comfortable enough, and if it is not smart enough, people will choose to forget, won't do it, right? And you have inconsistencies in the data, lots of problems. So design helps a lot improving all these parts. So there are tons of types of design in the world, and product designing involves, I would say, a large majority of them, but you can actually take them into 3 major types or categories. One is the UI, user interface design. The second is the user experience design. And the third one is the behavioral design. User interface design is everything about how things look, right? The user experience design is about how people feel when using this product, or having this experience. And behavioral design is all about why people is gonna do this, use this product, or why people is gonna do what the product is asking them to do, right? So user interface is wide, ranges from branding, right, to graphical design of all the interaction parts of any product, right? And the core objective of user interface design is to make something enticing, pleasant, something I haven't used yet, but I like how it looks nice, looks cool. I want to try it. So UI is all about art. UX design is how you design the product from the interaction part of it, mostly, to craft a feeling. After using a product, your users can feel accomplished, can feel puzzled. Imagine a product that each time you have to do something with it, like tracking what happened, my blood pressure, right? Well, if I have to track my blood pressure, and each time I open this app to do it, I had to figure it out how to do it, well, I'm gonna feel puzzled. Worst, it can be, users can be frustrated, can feel frustrated after using it. Just imagine that not only they are not able to find how to track the blood pressure, but also they actually did something they didn't want it to do by trying to do that. So you feel frustrated. That's pretty terrible. Of course, you can feel accomplished if and very well with yourself if you just do what you were trying to do on the first shot. This is a great experience, and you feel great about that. Doesn't matter if it is something you've never done before. So there is a lot of complexities on UX design, and actually in UX design there's two parts. First, there is a UX research, and then the actual design. And the complexity is all about imagining what your users might possibly would like to do and making it very, very simple and easy for them to accomplish that on the first try. If we go to a deeper level, more in an abstract level, UX design is all about removing the subconscious friction of using a product. In other words, making people able to use your product without having to think about it. Because our brains don't like to think. And if we have to think about doing something next time, I have to open this app or to manipulate this device. Well, really, I don't want it. I will start very easily to procrastinate the tracking because I don't know, I have to think. I don't want it, right? I don't even know why, but I don't want it. I don't even know why, but I don't like it. So my brain will start putting all sorts of crazy excuses or reasons around why I don't like it. I will try to, what in the design world we call rationalize this bad feeling. Okay. And third, we have behavioral design, which is how you make people to do what you want them to do. Just imagine, I just put an example about a trial, and just imagine this trial is about Well, you have this wonderful new procedure or methodology that actually people will be in great shape if they do 2 series of push-ups after 8 hours, right? And they, after, in order to validate that theory, you need people to actually track it after they do that, right? So you have a digital product for that. Well, behavioral design will help to craft the conceptual side of the product to make people to really want to do these push-ups in a consistent way after each 8 hours period, and actually to track it after they do it. So you have to craft it, because just imagine someone is very busy, so they might have a very good motivation to do the push-ups because they believe actually this is going to be great for my health, so they will do it. But they say, well, you know what, tracking actually it's not great for me, it's actually great for these guys on the university, on the faculty or wherever. So I will do the push-ups, but I don't have time to actually track it. So or I'm late to taking my kids to school, so I will track it later, and later never comes, right? So you need to design the concept of the product so people can really link one thing to another and make it, making tracking it as a part of the journey. And they will take the journey in the first place because they have a very intrinsic motivation. So actually by starting it, you can make sure that they finish doing that. And so they will track this session. Otherwise, what ends up happening is that you have inconsistent data, pretty much, which is pretty bad, we'll know. So, and behavioral design works in, and I will explain a little bit more on this end because is the one that actually is less known out there. UX, UI, a lot of people speaks about it, but behavioral design is a different story. So behavioral design is based on applying techniques from behavioral science into the product design. It's like the same thing like behavioral economics. We have a Nobel Prize in economics this year for their theories on behavioral economics, and is applying the same concepts but into a policy scale. Well, what behavioral design is all about is to applying the same concepts into a product scale. So the two pillars of this discipline is about using something that's called the model of behavior, which is some sort of equation that represents why people do something or don't do it. And if you apply some math and decompose any behavior into using these theories, you get some formulas that actually you can start playing with the variables and getting people from doing things. Actually, every behavior we do has a motivation and an ability, and it's fired by a trigger. When this happens, if you have a high motivation and a high ability, most likely you're going to do it. If you don't have these two things, you won't do it. So you can craft an expected behavior, like making people do these push-ups, right? Every 8 hours. You can manipulate things like, or manipulate the perception of things like the motivation. You can play by sending them a message, remembering them half hour before their session, saying, you know how great are push-ups for you and how this is going to change your life. So actually you're increasing the perception of motivation on the people. And the other thing is increasing the ability, which is, it might be just putting a reminder. If I put a reminder for the sessions, if I make it easier for them to remember, that increases the ability. So it's a very deep area. You have intrinsic motivations, extrinsic motivations. You can modify ability a ton of ways. So this is one pillar of this. And the other thing are the cognitive biases, which is actually the behavioral sciences tell us that more or less exist about 45 cognitive biases, which are ways that we humans are irrational, but in a predictive way. Ways that actually, instead of doing what is logical to do or is supposed we do the other way around. But that can be planned, designed, and also exploited. We know all about Cambridge Analytica and all these things. Well, what they are pretty much doing, they are relying on exploiting cognitive biases to make a message being spread, right? They also use some tactics out of the model of behavior of improving the ability for people to do what they wanted to do and stuff. So, but what they were actually doing was making it very easy for people to share a point of view, right? They were leveraging on a cognitive bias, which is called social proof, which is, if I'm hearing from lots of places that something it's good, it must be good, right? So we have lower our defenses, our subconscious defenses to these kind of things. So they were effectively increasing the effectiveness of advertising. They were not doing much more than that, and actually increasing social approval of certain ideas that might not have the social approval without these techniques. So that's pretty much it. I won't get into many judgments on that. So, so cognitive biases are all about managing irrationality that we have ingrained into our brains, and we are pretty predictable on those things. So the final concept for me to remark is that actually design is key to validate any premise. We've been doing this for a lot of years, and again, I can remark how much important this is for getting good results on wherever you're trying to validate. We've seen so many good concepts, and when I talk about concept, I talk about it might be a procedure, it might be a drug, it might be a business idea, or wherever. We've seen so many that actually they are very good, and they were presented poorly. So when they go out there and do their trials, right? They don't get traction, they don't get engagement, they get high user bouncing rates, which is people that started, but then they drop it. So, or they get inconsistent data, which is another big problem. So, many cases, the big reason about this is nothing around the core idea that people is trying to validate, is all around the experience that they surrounded their core concept. This has a lot to do with digital products around the core idea, and the biggest problem is that, well, we might be losing some very good ideas, improvements, and innovations out there just because they spent too much time on the core basic concepts and too little on actually designing how this is crafted, presented to people, and this is going to be interacting with people. So minor issues can trash away very good ideas, very good science, because with those inconsistent results, with those bad trial results, they let it on, they don't get funded for the next stages, or look uglier than other ideas that actually are not that good, but they were better on presenting this stuff to people. So, okay. Now, I'm gonna go to the next part of it, which is creating this stuff, right? It's critical. If we don't have this companion app, right? This guide, this experience, this manual, something that goes together with what I'm trying to prove. If we don't get it, well, we are significantly losing parts of what we're trying to try, or we are going to be losing potential. So, but the thing is that creating products is way more complex. Even when you think about, well, it's just an app that tracks when people do push-ups, right? Well, it's super tough, right? Not coding it. Coding, it's pretty much a commodity, right? Not the actual building on things or the execution, which is tough and has a ton of complexities. But actually, what's tougher is the journey of the product as a whole, right? All the pieces being connected, all this design, all the core concepts, right? All the tracking, all the validation. And it's very hard to get it right. Especially because many of these products out there, and actually I have here a big range from, depending on how innovative a product is, they have 3 to 10 times more chances of failing than to succeeding. And you say, well, 3 to 10, that's huge gap, right? Well, you know what's the simple biggest factor on this level of difficulty is how much time, money, and so resources you have to keep trying until you get it right. And most of the time are not the core concepts that you have to get right. Actually, you pretty much like get them right from the beginning. Otherwise, you won't be creating this product. Yeah. Yes.
So when you say successful here, you mean successful in marketing?
I mean successful. Doesn't have to be successful in terms of revenue or use. Many of the non-successful don't even get launched, right? Others get launched, no one uses them, right? And we also have a range of products that actually get launched, get used, but they remain so much into a niche that they get discontinued or dropped after some time, right? No one cares because it doesn't move anyone's needle. So anyway, these numbers, I don't know if that was okay. Yeah. Well, with success. Yeah, and that's exactly the point. On this type of products, we will talk about successful products to those type of products, right? But also you have products that I would say to be successful in this stage would be a product that actually you can get it out there to the right amount of people, that you can perform the tests, right? People use it, right? And you get the expected results. So you have all these factors there. In the business world, successful will be, well, they have some amount of revenue from it with a certain level of profit, right? But of course, all the earlier phases had to happen too. So they had to release it, they had to get people out there using it for a long time or in a sustainable base, and so on and so on. So it changes a little bit. What's the successful? What would you be considering successful? But actually, it ranges a lot. Large companies have a bigger, they launch less products and they have bigger success rates just because they are stubborn. And they are stubborn enough to have a product that is not working for 5 years and keep pouring money into marketing until eventually they, in one end, get it right, and in the other end, people will create a costume of using it. So that increases a lot the chances. But in the startup world or in the scientific proofing space, you most likely won't have more than 1 or 2, up to 3 bullets. So you need to do something that pretty works right with a very limited amount of resources and time, right? And very little time to correct or pivot or adjust, right? So it's important to put a lot of thought into the products and not that amount of money, because the money we don't have. So so it makes it very harder for this type of products to survive out there, because how many things we can get it right on the first time? It's super tough in any discipline. So I have some tips from the trenches, and this is mostly about things we've been seeing for years happening, patterns that lead to more chances of success, or patterns that lead to a certain death. Well, the first step is the people behind the project. And I'm assuming, okay, you have this concept, you want to try it out, you need either you need a vehicle to launch this science, right, and make it available, or you need a platform for tracking it, for being a companion of your science or technology or something, right? But pretty much you have a concept which is the main stakeholder, the person, right, with the vision, the person that in his head, her head, you have where this thing is going and why it's so important, right? And that's the one in our world is called the product owner, right? That might not be the actual owner of the product, because this might be a manager within a company that actually the company is owning the intellectual property of what they are building, but actually is the owner of the concept, right? And this person that actually is leading this initiative, right, is the one that has the ability to decide if something is aligned with the goal of this project or not, right? So this person is critical and a very, very, very significant, I would say, well, no worries. The single most significant element that we see on successful products is having a present product owner. Present means present with the team that is executing the rest of the technology in the same way that this product owner most likely is very present on the creation of the foundations of this, right? But also has to be very integrated into the team that is creating this platform, this digital vehicle to distribute what I'm sending or asking people to do or what I'm validating. You would say, well, what's being present? Well, I will start by explaining what's not being present. Not being present is the typical, and I will take it to the corporate world because it's more visible. The typical guy or manager within a company that actually says, well, you know what? We need to build this product. You here have the specs, right? And I got this quote from you and get it done in, oh yeah, in 3 months, right? So, well, this guy hires someone to do whatever has to be done and goes back and come back in, let's say, 3 months. Well, things are not right, are not done. A lot of things happen. This is the easier way to fail. This is not the not present guy. The present one is someone that actually is there on a regular basis, and I would say day to day, asking the executing team leader how things are going, answering any questions, right? Typically, this doesn't take more than 15 to 20 minutes a day if you have the exercise of doing this. And this helps in many ways. Executing any project, you have a lot of indefinition or undefinition, right? Things non-defined. Doesn't matter how much time we spend working on specs. There are a lot of things that were not defined. No one thought about them, and they show up in times of execution. If no one is there with the vision to actually align the product to the right place, product will go anywhere else, right? So this is critical. Also, decision times, if the guy is not present and only meets every 2 days or every once a week, decision times starts piling up, and that gets to big product delays at the end. And of course, a present guy lowers the decision for developers, in this case, or engineers, to make their own decisions uninformed on the core business or on the core value, right? On the direction of the vision. So it's all about commitment. Second thing, it's important to know about a little bit, at least the Wikipedia extracts of project methodologies. Waterfall versus Agile, and Agile would say Scrum, which is the best one. There are huge differences. Both of them have pros and cons. And actually, if your project, if your vision, or if you as a leader cannot play with the rules of Agile, which is mostly if you can pick anything, you will go with Agile. But if you cannot play with those rules, most likely you will be in a bad place. So you might end up settling down on the other option. Methodology for executing a product is more important than the technology. It doesn't matter if it is built on React, on C, or in COBOL. I don't care. The only thing that matters about technology is that actually it's capable of doing what I'm asking to it, right? But methodology, it's no-go if I pick the wrong one. Third thing, well, and this is when you're picking your partner to executing things, it's critical that they put a very, very good project manager. Or in the Scrum world, it's a PO proxy, product owner proxy, which is like the shadow of this person with the vision, but can work as a bridge between engineers, right, and the person with the bridge with the vision. They define great the expectation is in a great way, right? They don't hide issues or problems. If you don't hear about problems on the project execution, you're being lied. There's no product that's being executed that doesn't have 3, 4, 5 issues a week has to be solved. So if you don't hear about them, something's wrong. You're gonna trust this guy. So this guy is a great communicator. That also means that can speak to you in non-technical terms, right? And translate this, what's happening to you, and you can fully understand, and you can go the other way around, which is speaking on non-technical terms to him or her, and this person can go to the team and bring it into a good level of detail. So this person is critical. If you don't like the person is gonna be leading this team, that's a big red flag. Number 4, this one is very hard to follow. If you're familiar with the Pareto Law, which is 80-20, it's critical to try to get the 80% of the value of what you're trying to do with the 20% of the effort. If after accomplishing or achieving this 80% of the value, right, you have time left, well, you can reiterate and go for the next 80% of the missing value. So what I'm trying to say is that when you go for trials, right, very, very rookie and common mistake is actually, well, the technology has to be perfect, great, or do everything. No, it doesn't have to do everything, doesn't have to be perfect. Having errors, problems, people reporting, well, this thing is not working is fine. Up to a certain point, of course, as long things are functional, right? But prepare and expect some level of issues. Why is that? And why is that okay? And this is the part that is hard to understand, because I would say, well, not right things are right. That doesn't make any sense. Well, the thing is that this 80% okay, which leaves a 20% space for issues, can be done in the 20% of the effort. When you are low on budget or time, actually, when someone is telling you, well, this can be done in a couple months, actually what they are saying is that it can be roughly done. They are hitting for this 80% by default. But to get to, and this is real numbers, to range from a product that works fine and with a scope of an 80% to a 95%, it takes 5 times more for executing. It's crazy, the difference. So, and in reality, most of the times for trials, you don't need the 95. 80 is just good enough, right? Worst case scenario, you have some people you can take off of your data if things went wrong with them because of technical issues, right? So you can plan, okay, I can put 10% extra people on my trial. Yes.
I have a question for that, but depending on who your target audience is. So, for example, if I deployed a product in
Yes.
my clinics
Mm-hmm.
with medical assistant, it's been going through issues. And at first, we have to screen these, and then so if I go for 80%, but then my audience is sort of a healthcare student, that at least we push back and say, we're trying to
Yes. Well, you're talking about something is called a major bag, right? Which is something that renders a product into a non-functional state. That should not be part of the 80%, right? What I'm saying is that a product on the 80% should not have majors, might have missing functionalities, things that are not there at all, right? Or might have some bugs and issues and awkwardness some point, right? But something that renders the thing non-working, it's a major and it's not part of, you haven't got to the 80% either. Yeah, well, yeah, well, if I have to say these things, trials, right? Trials are not products. So they don't have to be complete. They don't have to be perfect. They have to be good enough. That's very hard to follow, right? But think about it. Prototypes, and this is a guide for you, prototypes should not take more than 4 to 6 weeks to be completed, right? And this doesn't mean you have to find a team that can do what I want in this space of time. That means that actually, if a team is telling me that it's going to take more than these time frames, probably what I'm asking them to do is way over, right? So that's a good guide, actually. Trials and prototypes should be on the realm of the 6 weeks. If it takes longer than that, well, I should actually lower my scope. And another thing is simulating as much as possible. You don't have to actually build in the great algorithm right there if you can fake it because you have 50 users for the trial. So just fake it, and that saves a ton of time. So that's pretty much it. Let's go out there and do things. And this is this is a picture time where you can take pictures of things and then drop me emails about questionings and things. I will be way happy to addressing them. All right? Awesome.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Please grab a lunch on your way out.
Sandwiches are not in boxes, so if you grab one, they deliver the wrong thing. To go chat with them about that.
Thank you very much for that. That was
No
excellent.
problem. Thank you.
My name's Andy. I'm a assistant professor in the PT program. We're designing an app to help with tracking progress in therapy. This is speaking exactly to what we're doing because we've got this method that does predictions and stuff, and we've been just doing math for like 2 years, and now we have to make it usable.
Yeah, you need